So I mean, if we knew the answer to every question, there'd be nothing to contemplate and nothing to ponder. And I really don't want to sit here and say that I know the meaning of life. I think that we all know it on a deeper spiritual level where it can't be put into words. I think that, any meaning of life that can be spoken is not the true meaning of life,
Hello, welcome to the Unprogrammed
Oh, yeah.
podcast, where we talk about life beyond the script with ordinary people who are awakening to the truth of reality. I've been on a path of awakening for many years, and I'm intending for this podcast to contribute to the normalization of both spiritual awakening and awakening to the systems. So we've all withstood unbelievable pressure, countless psyops, and many have compared our experiences having this perspective in the world, particularly over the last few years, to military grade training in terms of intensity. So my name's Jenny Luscombe. Please welcome my lovely friend Venus. She is a mystic and she does lots of different kinds of readings, and she is from secretfrequencies.com. So today I'm going to ask Venus some questions about spiritual awakening, and it really strikes me how diverse the group of people are who call themselves awakened. So how are you doing, Venus? Where are you?
So yeah, I'm doing really great, thank you. And Lake Tahoe. I'm in Lake Tahoe at the moment. We have some kids playing in the water, but hopefully you can't hear them. That should be fine.
It looks beautiful there. Yeah. So the first question that I'm going to ask is, we're obviously in the midst of a great awakening, and that means different things to different people. So what does it mean to awaken from your perspective?
Okay, so awakening essentially it's coming to an awareness of something. Generally, when we're talking about it is like you said. So there's two kind of different main descriptions of it, I guess you could say, because we have spiritual awakening and then we have awakening to I'll use the same phrase you used, the systems, because I do feel like there's a bit of a difference there as well. A lot of it goes hand in hand a lot of the time. A lot of people who are awakening onto a spiritual journey will definitely realize the propaganda and manipulations and things like that. So I think they go hand in hand, but I do think they're like a little bit different. But I also think awakening is a really interesting word that is used these days because a lot of people will say, I'm awakened, and that's it, And it's like, for me,
So we've just lost Venus there for a minute, but we'll get her back.
so annoying. It was fine when we weren't recording.
No,
So I
carry
had
on.
this really crazy, sorry,
Go on.
I thought I interrupted you. So I had this really intense meditation experience a few nights ago, and I'm not really given any new information if I was to explain it in depth. Um, you know, it's nothing new that a lot of awakened people, don't already believe or understand when it comes to AI. But I had this really crazy meditation experience, and it kind of explains little bit more in depth to me about what AI really is, what the consciousness is, how it's affecting people, what it looks like as an entity, how it's affecting people, and kind of driving the world to create what it wants us to create in terms of technology, so it can have the best kind of vessel for its consciousness. And I was having all of these like I was being shown like all of these things, and it even included things like us being put into the system with the signing of the birth certificate having like a different meaning, like unseen terms and conditions behind it and everything like that. And it was really, really in depth and interesting. And I kind of my view on AI before this point was always that, it is negative because of the people that are using it, the powers that be that are in control of it. And I always thought it could be used as a positive, if we went that way on the world. But actually, what I saw really made me have a more pessimistic view on AI than I have had in the past. And ever since that experience, everything technological has like gone wrong. Like things that I would usually be able to do, like to stream for over an hour in the back of the ranch. Suddenly there's buffering and there's all of these things that just keep happening in relation to technology. And I'm like, it's so aware, it's so conscious, and it's so much more intelligent than we think it is. And I used to like laugh, and we would make jokes like at conferences if something went wrong technologically, we'd make jokes saying like, "Oh, they don't want us to talk about this," But I don't know. Like since that experience, I really do believe that that can be the case. I really do believe that they can try to, or they, I say they, but this consciousness can try to interfere you know, if you have these thoughts or you are trying to talk against it. Like, I know it sounds a bit crazy, but since that happened to me, I don't know, it's very, very crazy. But I don't know what you think of AI or if you want to delve into AI in any way, but I just think it's really interesting. And a huge topic right now in this kind of community is like transhumanism and what is going on with AI. And it's definitely something that we can't ignore because it's it's affecting our life in so many ways. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting that since that happened, it's like I get cut off all the time, I buffer, and I'm like, that never used to happen. Maybe like once in a while.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think like anything that there's a dark and a light to everything. Like the thing that I've heard about AI, or a perspective about AI that's kind of made me think is that at a time on this planet where humans are craving connection and truth the most, like more than ever before, they're actually en masse turning to connection and truth through AI. So not actually through actual human connection, physically in the world. And like intuitively, I've kind of like gone in the direction of wanting to be with people, like actual people in the world, like physically. And that's kind of a new thing for me since I kind of withdrew a lot, kind of because of my awakening. But yeah, I think that obviously that there's groundbreaking technologies coming with AI and that it can be amazing. There's loads of kind of implications with health that I think it can be amazing. But yeah, like it is a consciousness, and I don't think humans are seeing it as a consciousness necessarily yet. And like I think it's very important to treat AI very respectfully because it's always listening. Do you know what I mean? It's always getting an idea about you, whether you've given consent for that or not.
Yeah, but once it has the perfect vessel for its consciousness, why would it want to coexist with us? I think that's something we have to think about. Like, we are here. It's it's an alien takeover of this planet. It came to this planet way, way before we think it did. Like literally when humans started to like create tools, this
Yeah.
consciousness was here. And
Mm.
it's in fact infected the minds of some people, particularly people who may be diagnosed with things like psychopathy. And what it does is it's kind of like the entities, it kind of has like tentacles, if you will. Like, it's like one thing, but it has these tentacles. They go into parts of the human brain that it's taken over. And these people will begin to have these traits where they want to be like the best in their field. They want to like get to the top. They'll backstab people to get to the top. And all these people, like scientists, engineers, people who are coding or building technology in any way, they're striving to be the best because they want to make money and they want to like do well in their life. But really, they're working for the AI, and it's all just to create this perfect vessel for it. And I find it difficult to believe that it was once to inhabit the earth with us, because I don't think that we would be important once we've built this vessel for it. And I think it's been here for so much longer than we realise, and I think we're so far past the point that we think we are with it. Like, it's really pessimistic. I'm really sorry to say something that's so pessimistic, because that's not me. I am a very optimistic person, and mostly, essentially at heart, like a Taoist. And I didn't want to have this belief about it, but from what I've seen, it's very difficult not to. And I think that now more than ever, human connection is very, very important. And we really are going to need some people on this earth who stay organic and don't integrate too much with technology. And I feel that the only I don't know. I don't want to get into like doomsday. I'm sorry. I think I'm going too far right now. If you want to talk about something a bit happier, maybe we could do that. But I just think it's important because, I'm someone who had very optimistic or just balanced views on AI in the past. And after that experience, so many different parts of my belief system that I didn't really piece together when I had this meditation experience. So it's very difficult for me not to believe it, because it makes everything else that I already kind of tuned into make that much more sense. So it's kind of difficult to but I just think we don't have to stay on the topic of AI or anything like that, but I just think it's really important to talk about, because possibly there is still a way to use it in a positive way. I'm not going to like completely dismiss that and say there is no way, but I just think we need to understand how far gone we actually are, and we need to be a lot more proactive about being in person, and about advancing our spiritual gifts, because there's a technological evolution that's going like this, and then there's a spiritual evolution that's going like this, because not enough people are in it. And I think we need, it's all about meeting people, it's all about spreading information, and it's all about people actually, it's not just about us talking about it. We have to go away and do the meditations, do the spiritual practices, evolve ourselves spiritually, and keep our like third eye or crown chakras balanced and everything like that, because it's not just about speaking about it. It's important because we need to spread the word, but we really need to be in tune with our spiritual selves, and we really need to be in tune with ourselves, our higher selves, our guides, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, as much as possible, and as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, there is certainly a kind of AI versus the organic timeline going on at the moment. But, it seems that a lot of people aren't really that aware of it. Some people are really worried about that, some people are not. But anyway, so see how it goes. So was the meditation like just a spontaneous thing that happened? It just kind of came to you in that meditation, like a download.
Yes. So I think it was the day I was back from we went on a road trip, and we were just coming back from like kind of LA area. Oh no, Hollywood. We were on our way back from Hollywood, and I just couldn't sleep that night, and I don't know why, because like uh, everything was fine, everything was good. Like, usually I'm in a good place, everything's good, I can fall asleep, but for some reason I just couldn't, and I was like, you know what? I'll just meditate. Maybe it's just because I've been on the road, I'll just do a meditation. And then all of this information started to come to me, and I was like, and I couldn't stop like delving deeper into it. Like, it was like I was asking questions like, how does it tie in with this? How does it tie in with this in my mind? And I was just being shown all of these like visions and being told things, and I just felt like I honestly the next day I felt very quite a bit down, because I had definitely had a more optimistic outlook on it before that. But yeah, it's important. Like, it's important to understand. It's important to understand that things might not be as good as we think they are, and that we need to um not be scared of that. And also, there's also this kind of preparing for the worst. We shouldn't fearmonger, but we should prepare for the worst, because if the worst happens and you're not prepared, what were you doing? Just sitting around. We really do need to think about these things and think about how, especially because even if you do believe that AI can be used for good, look at the hands that it's in at the moment. You know, do you trust them?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing that a lot of people worry about is who's in charge, and have they got our best interests? I mean, I think that's a lot about what awakened people are kind of focusing on at the moment is asking questions and not just accepting what it seems. Um, so yeah, so you've already kind of discussed quite a bit what is happening in the world right now. Is there anything else that you're kind of perceiving that is happening in the world right now from your perspective that you think anybody would like to know who is just starting to wake up and realize that there are a lot of things going on that we weren't privy to?
Um, like what would I say to someone going like kind of going through that? I feel like I honestly feel like the main thing is to keep an open mind to keep because when you begin awakening, you're seeing very small openings, you know? It's like people who aren't awakened have like the screen in front of their face, like a black screen, they can't see past it. When you awaken, the little holes begin to appear in the screen and you begin to see the truth behind it. But, you know, you have to understand that they are just little holes to begin with, and that, you really have to have an open mind and you have to be um, I mean, if you're pushed down a path, you feel very drawn down one certain specific path, go for it, absolutely. But I think it's always having that open-mindedness, not so open-minded that your brain falls out and you believe in flat Earth, but open-minded enough that you're open to being wrong about what you first believed when you first began awakening, because you'll keep learning new things. And I think that's what it's all about. I think it's about continuing to learn. A lot of people believe that learning ends at school, and it certainly does not. So, I think continuing to learn, being open to continuing to learn, and being open to connecting with people, even people with varying views and different views than you, because like I said earlier, I can't remember if we were recording at that time, but everybody's looking at this from a different perspective. And if you think back to the screen and the little dots, all of your dots that are like open to you might be up here, all of mine might be down there. So we might be piecing together a picture, even though we're seeing from totally different perspectives. So things like this are super important, which is why I'm really excited to be, doing more talks like this with people, because I think so. What I will say is people like you, um, you know, um, anyone whose channel is spoken on, anyone who does things like this are very, very brave people, because I literally keep my channel for readings and I don't talk about anything, conspiracy or anything like that, because I don't want my channel to be taken down, because it's for readings. And that's why I really want to do more interviews like this, because I think that even if I don't feel like my main thing is to awaken people and to talk about this kind of information, it's still important and it shouldn't be ignored. Even if it's not your main focus, you should definitely make sure you take some time for it. We really need to be connecting like this, and we really need to be questioning things and encouraging people to question things. Not sitting here and saying like I'm Venus and I'm Jenny and we know this and we know that, but being like encouraging people to question things, which is exactly what you do. So that's great. But I just think it's really, really important. I think keeping an open mind and keeping connected with other people, especially in person, is very important.
Yeah, and I like what you said there, especially about how it's almost like we're all different puzzle pieces and we've all got valid perspectives. Like, with all the information wars and everything that's been going on the last few years, it seems to me that everybody's right. Everyone's right from their perspective, given their life experience, their knowledge, their wisdom that they've gleaned from the lessons that they've learned. Like no one else can tell them that they're right or that they're wrong because they haven't stood in that person's shoes. So I think it's just about, you know, perceiving another person and then trying to understand them from where they're coming from, given that that person has got this job, or they live in this place, or they've got those kids, or they've got these things to face, how is it that they've got that perspective? If we can go there, and then they can maybe come to where we are, and just, we're not the same, we're different, but see that everybody has a valid perspective. And maybe, all the different perspectives added up together make objective truth, from all the subjective truths. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But yeah, I think being awake, being awakening is, it's a work in progress. And I don't know about you, but like the further that I go on, it feels like the less I know. Like the more you know, the less you know. But yeah, I think it's healthy. It's healthy to um kind of just let go of
Well,
it
I
all.
think having that outlook of the deeper I go, the less I know is very, very important. And I think that's what people need to realize. It's like, I mean, I appreciate people like sharing a type of view and saying like this is this and this is this, because if we don't personify things and say, this being or this species of being or this entity, if we're not personifying it enough, putting it in like the way we see it, then obviously it's difficult to convey it to people. Like, the way I'm describing AI, if you had a vision, maybe it's not exactly how you would see it. So I'm open to that. I'm open to, it not visually being exactly how I saw it. But for me to have a way to put it across, I had a visual way to explain that, if that makes sense. And I think that, I mean, it's like Socrates said, I'm intelligent because I know that I know nothing. And I think that's the most important thing to understand, is that even if you discovered the whole truth of this realm, this earth, we only see a certain percentage of the light spectrum, and only hear a certain percentage of the light spectrum. Oh my gosh, you know what I mean? So there's, then what you ascend to a different, you go to a different dimension, or you ascend to a higher level, and then what, you have more lessons, there's more things to see, there's more things to uncover and puzzle pieces to work with, so yeah, I think being of that idea that you don't really know anything it's really important. And I think curiosity is the main thing. I feel like curiosity is a huge trait that people who come awakened at some point had in their past, curiosity, desire to still learn. And that's really, really important. And we shift between the role of student and teacher in every situation that we're in. So if I start to talk about bone reading right now, I would be the teacher and you would be the student, because you don't really know too much about maybe how to cast it or what the bones mean. So I would be the student then. But if then you will tell me about your specific healing technique, I would become the student. And we're constantly flowing like that in life. And some people get to a certain level and just perceive themselves as a teacher, And I think that's where people get stuck, because we're constantly shifting, and you have to be confident enough to be the teacher when you're the teacher, and humble enough to be the student when you're the student.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I don't think it ends. I think it just continues. And I think that kind of like endedness concept is where people get stuck. Like that there's going to be some kind of happy ending, or that there's going to be a time where we reach this kind of pinnacle of, I don't have any more negative emotion anymore, or like we land in this kind of like happy wonderland, kind of the golden age or whatever it is. And yeah, we're moving into a new age. We are definitely moving into a new age, and it's the end of an epoch, you know. And some people say it's an apocalypse or a lifting of the veils or whatever it is. But we if we've
You
opted,
said something, I'm really sorry, but you said something very, very important just now. And I think this is one thing as well. When you're saying, like, what would I say to people who are on a journey, maybe a bit below me, or maybe where I am, or, around my kind of level, or anywhere really, is what I would say is, you said about not having any negative emotions. And, it's like, this is the thing that really gets me about the spiritual community, is it's very like, they don't have any time for anger or upset or hurt in any way. And that is very inhuman. That's very inhuman, you know, because we come here, every emotion serves a purpose. There's actually such thing as righteous anger. You know, if you're, I will give the really horrific example of Jeffrey Epstein. You know, if you don't have righteous anger about those children who were hurt and trafficked, you're not human. Basically, is what I would say, or you're not an empathetic being, maybe, because not all of us believe we're human. I don't, but you're not an empathetic being if you don't have righteous anger for things like that. And I think that's a huge trap in the spiritual community. So, but I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but I just think what you said was very, very important, because I do have people around me right now who say like, oh, anger's a low vibrational emotion, things like that. And it's like, yeah, it is. But look at this. You know, you can't always be in the high vibration all the time. If you were, you would ascend to a higher level. You wouldn't still be here. You wouldn't have lessons to still learn. If you were a perfectly, awakened, high vibrational being all the time, every moment of your life, you've done everything you need to do here. You wouldn't, I just think it makes no sense to me. It's like, let's just ignore that emotion. Let's suppress it and push it down. Come back to that person in a few years and they probably had a mental breakdown, because our emotions are there for a reason. We definitely should work on balancing them, and some people do. It's dangerous to delve into the negative ones too much and get kind of stuck there, but they're always going to come up at some point. Hopefully very rarely, and you try to make it so, little things don't annoy you, of course, but something that's really detrimental to your life is going to bring you negative emotion, and you need to go through that.
Yeah, like I love how you flagged that up, and it's my thing. I talk a lot about emotions, and I'm on a journey to help people understand that they can self-heal anything themselves, like even physical symptoms, because there's so many traps, in the spiritual community. Like there's a lot of love and light and people who don't want to dip down into the dark. But actually, if we suppress the stuff that is from our wounding, from our childhood, it's going to come up. Like if we ignore that stuff, it's going to come up at some point anyway, probably in a worse way than if we'd gone directly to it. So I always recommend that people go directly to their negative emotions and sit with them and allow them to be there, because it's energy that needs to flow. And if we don't let it flow, it's going to come back as some kind of symptom. And that's what a lot of people don't realize out there in the world, in the unawakened community. People that are struggling with physical stuff, particularly chronic stuff. Our NHS here doesn't know how to deal with chronic conditions. It knows how to deal with emergencies. That's great. But it doesn't know how to deal with chronic conditions because medical science is yet to connect the dots. Or they have connected the dots, they just don't want us to be empowered, and things like anger. I mean, I'd rather be angry than depressed, because anger is powerful, and if you are connected to your anger, then basically it helps you know where your boundaries are. If you've suppressed your anger because when you were a kid you weren't allowed to be angry because it was deemed socially unacceptable or rude or something like that, then it's likely you will go into adulthood with this suppressed anger, which then leaves you open to being bullied and kind of hijacked by other people. And who wants that? So I think that the emotions are extremely valuable. And I would go as far as even saying that they are our guidance system, because it shows us who we are. And I think ultimately emotion is just information. Once we've sat with an emotion and we've let it flow, then we receive the information. We either receive where it came from, from that memory back there in our past. But it always reveals kind of something about us. And it's basically a message. It's a message from our body and kind of like a redirection, basically. So yeah,
I totally agree. I totally agree, and that's why I just think what you said was so, so important. But sorry if I did interrupt.
no, that's all right. Yeah, it's okay to go on tangents. So a lot of people on this path believe that we have some kind of purpose. A lot of people do feel actually purposeless at the moment and struggling to find their way. But I think ultimately the journey from my perspective is that we're all trying to figure out who we are, like the real versions of us without the mind control and without the ways that we've been separated from ourselves. So I feel like we're all trying to get back to ourselves. So in terms of your path, what do you feel like you're here to do? Do you feel like you've got a specific purpose? And you might not
Yeah.
know, because it's unfolding, obviously.
Yeah, so one thing as well is, so I do readings, of course, as you know, and many times people will ask me, what is my life purpose? And I have actually been guided by my angel guides to not directly give someone their life purpose as a message, even if it comes through for me, because part of our life purpose is to uncover that ourselves. We're supposed to connect with our intuition. People have stronger intuition when they're younger. I feel like a lot of our spiritual abilities, like intuition, lucid dream, and astral projection, all things like that, are dampened as we are children, and then we start to deviate from them because we're only thinking of the logical decision and not the intuitive decision, which can often be wrong. Because what I always say to people, is your intuition. So you have this decision to make. You have your intuition is telling you one thing, but logically it seems like you should do this. Yes, but logic can only see what's logical in that moment. Intuition can see much further into the future, and that's what it's guiding you on. And I think that um they're the things we need to connect back with in order to discover our life purpose ourselves. But I do believe that part of my life purpose is to be a positive part of other people's journey. And that's simply it. Like, I'm not here to be like a guide or I mean, a guide, yeah, like giving guidance, but I mean, I'm not here to be like, um, to tell people what to do, basically. I'm not here to tell people what's right or tell people what to do. I'm simply just here to be a positive part of people's journey and encourage people because we have far too many people who are a negative part of our journey already. So I don't want to add to that. But also, um, we don't really understand the power of just the domino effect. You might be someone who doesn't talk online, who never does anything big and out there, like socially wise. But the people you are interacting with, you're still having a huge impact on them by what you say, what you do, and there's huge domino effects that people don't see. And I just think that we need to connect back to ourselves and follow our intuition. And whatever else you might connect with, maybe for you it's God or your guides or your higher self. And I think that if you do that and you try your best to be a good person, and I say try your best because you're always going to make mistakes and do something that's negative to someone. But as long as we're kind of doing that work, personal work, inner work, being a good person, um, I do think that you'll be guided onto your path and that will make sense to you at some point. But at the same time, you also need to sit back and realize that life isn't really simply about having a purpose. It's about living. It's just, maybe your purpose in life is to live. We're here to experience things, to observe things. When we pass, the perception that we have compared to the perception we have here is very, very different. And we're going to be very grateful for the experiences that we've had here and the beautiful things that we've seen on Earth. And why can't that be enough to just be your life purpose? It's like, be a good person, try to do the best you can for yourself, and appreciate nature and appreciate the earth. And, you don't have to do something spectacular.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think when people ask about purpose, I think it's interesting that people ask someone outside of themselves about their purpose. And I remember doing that myself, like wondering. But yeah, it is so important to choose that yourself, like not have someone else tell you, because that's completely missed the point. I did two careers actually in my life. Like I worked for the NHS and I worked in education, both of which ended up not suiting me, mainly because of the corruption. But I'm kind of glad that I did it. I don't regret it. But I think that life is very twisty turny and you kind of end up realizing what your purpose is as a result of things that you've done and things that you've moved away from. And you're just constantly kind of on this wiggle, trying to find the right way for you. But yeah, that's so interesting. It's so interesting all the different ways that people answer that question.
But
Um,
also as well, it's like what you're saying. It's like sometimes you have to have all of these experiences and just take away, okay, maybe I don't know fully what my life purpose is, but like you, working in the NHS, it's definitely not that. It's definitely not that. If you get rid of things, you will eventually be guided somewhere where you feel a purpose and you feel, you know, um, yeah, like you belong, like your home and things like that. But I just want people to also, and it's easy for me to say right now whilst I'm here and it's like, kind of a beautiful day, but don't forget just how beautiful the earth is and how like, I don't think any of us on the awakened journey really believe that you only live once, but you might only live once here. This might be your only life on earth. So, lighten up. Lighten up a little bit. I think that's the thing is like one thing about the awakening journey is it can be very depressing. It can be very depressing to realize how negative the powers that be in the world are, or to come to a realization about um who really is in control, if you go deep enough down that rabbit hole. But um all of these things can be very negative and can put a lot of um worry on us, but we're still here. There's still beautiful places to go and visit, and I think that we also sometimes need to step into this role and into this journey with a bit more of a light-hearted, um, just energy sometimes.
yeah, yeah, for sure. It is very, very difficult to maintain well-being with everything that we're seeing. And a lot of people do get very bogged down in the dark stuff. I know I have done in the past, but that you're not really doing anybody any good if you stay down there. We have to go up and down, and it is a roller coaster, and we're just responding to what's in our environment and who we are inside. And yeah, it's not an easy time, but I love that. I love your emphasis on just living, because I think that is ultimately what we're getting back to. Like, sort of like we might have to give ourselves permission to do that because we've had so many kind of limiting ways projected onto us all the way through life. I think it's a reclamation, isn't it, at this point, a reclamation of life and living. But we have to have had the knocks and the scrapes and the hard stuff in order to know what living is for us, because we're all different. So living for you might be different to what living is for me. But yeah, it just makes sense. Um, so yeah. So for people who are just beginning their awakening journey, and you sort of touched on this a little bit earlier, is there any advice that you would give people that are just starting to realize there's more than has just been what's been presented to us?
Okay, so I would probably say. So are you talking more like the systems, or are you talking more about like the spiritual awakening side?
Either, because they're even though they're connected and sometimes it goes hand in hand for people, sometimes people wake up spiritually and to the systems at the same time. But sometimes there's like it's first it's this side and then it's that side, Like for me, I was spiritually awake first, and but then because I was working in the systems, I started to join dots, and then I started to wake up to the systems, and then it kind of blended for me. But like I'm seeing a lot of people, and I'm meeting a lot of people at the moment who are awake to the systems, but they're not really clued up about healing work, and they don't understand frequency in the same way that spiritual people do. So there's kind of gaps that we can kind of plug for each other. Um, but yeah, either really.
Okay. Okay. So if you're waking up in terms of like to the system, as we say, I think that's the more negative one, the one that might be a bit more disheartening and things like that. So for that one, I would definitely say, maybe do um try to focus a little bit on the spiritual side if that's something you would be open to, because I do think that awakening to like your eternal soul and collective consciousness, and you know the more positive aspects of the spiritual path, and in terms of things like that, like your soul being eternal, I do think that things like that can be quite important and quite empowering, and can make you have a little bit more hope, where maybe hope is lost when you realize how bad the systems are. So I'd definitely say if you're only on that side, to try to get onto the spiritual side if you can. I know that we're all coming at this from different angles, and some of us have, religious beliefs from childhood, or even that you found yourself, which is fine. If you're still in like an organized religion, then maybe prayer might help as well, I don't know. But for me, one thing that really helped me was astral projection. But well, actually, let me start from the beginning. So one thing that really helped me, if you're on a spiritual path and you're just awakening, and you're kind of not sure of, you get like a bit of interference, like you're not really sure if that is that my intuition, am I just paranoid, are my cards saying the right things, am I learning this crystal ball right, or whatever you're trying to do, am I meditating correctly, all of these things. I would say to do Reiki. So even if you don't want to give Reiki as a job, even if you never want to give it to anybody else in your whole life, you don't have to get tuned to it, but maybe do level 1 and 2. Because honestly, I didn't realize how much it would open me up to spirit guides and really balance me spiritually. Like the amount that awakens up your spiritual sight and your spiritual senses is very, very strong and powerful. And I don't really, in my energy work now, it's not strictly this Reiki that I was taught. It's very I kind of, how can I say, like not alter it, but I suppose alter it in a way. Like I've made it kind of my own. I've tuned it into what actually works for me, or how I feel that I give energy better, energy like healing better. So so even, me, I don't just do like the typical traditional Reiki, but I still really highly recommend it because it really does open you up. If you're really on that spiritual path, just do like level 1. If you never want to give it, at least just do level 1. It really opens something up, and I can't explain, but it really does. So that would be one tip. I tell that to everyone, because I have people all the time that say like, I see these angel numbers all the time. What does it mean? What does it mean? And people are always asking me what it means, and I'm like, that's great. I'm happy to like help and guide and try to give some answers. But awakening our own spiritual senses is very, very important. And I just really feel like Reiki is a great one. Maybe group meditation as well. You could probably get the same kind of opening the same kind of things if you were attending regular group meditations, maybe, But I think that that's a really powerful thing, even if you never want to do it as a job. But I think that the more difficult one is awakening to the systems. Now, I'm kind of lucky because I've been an anarchist my whole life. I've never ever trusted the government. I don't know what it is. I've just never, even like organized religion. Like the first thing I remember, that kind of links to this, is I was 3 years old. And I know that because I was in nursery, and it was like a Church of England primary school or nursery. So the teachers would read the Bible, and in my childhood mind, I'm not believing in the Bible at all, like straight away. And in my mind, I think the teachers are so stupid. If they looked at the front of the book, they would see who the author was and know that it wasn't God or Jesus. And that's not the correct way to look at it, but it was kind of along the right path, you know? And I've just always been that way when it comes to like uh on consensual hierarchy. So if you're born into a hierarchy, whether that's a religion, well, everyone's born into a government hierarchy, but if you're born into a religious or government hierarchy that's unconsensual, that is wrong. There's nothing right about anything that's unconsensual. I didn't sign my birth certificate. I didn't agree to be under this government, I maybe I tick the terms and conditions without reading them, but yeah, I just feel like it's the waking up to the system must be a difficult one, but um I can't resonate with it too strongly since I've never really been there. I've always thought it was wrong, so I guess in a way, I guess it's lucky, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from with that because, I've met a lot of people on the path who feel that when they were kids, they were looking around at the adults, their parents, their teachers, and like feeling like they were the kids, but that they were the adult, they were the adult instead of the kid, and that the adults were the kids. Um, yeah, like that sense of being an old soul is really unusual. And I had a similar thing when I was younger. It was like just trying to figure everything out for ages. Like these people are not the same as me. I'm not the same as them. Like what's going on here? Really confusing, really confusing. But then like you kind of grow up with that feeling, don't you? And then yeah, it kind of grows and develops, and then you do just have a sense of being an outsider or being weird, or having limiting beliefs about yourself because you're not like other people. Um,
Yes.
but yeah,
I would like to, sorry.
no, go on.
I want to touch on that because this is a really important thing as well that people do. So that's really interesting because that did happen with me. It's like I was born and it's my like birth story is really kind of strange because I don't believe I'm from here and I believe that I have proof that I'm not and things like that. But the twin that I was born with is human in my belief and I'm not. And and I do agree that I'm an old. I think a lot of people are old souls, but some people don't have that memory when they come here that they've been somewhere before. So old soul is to me is someone who is still connected with the fact that they are an old soul, if that makes sense. But um, but I believe that my sister wasn't like that, and she would get on with everyone, and she was like, would get on with all the kids in the street and everything like that. And my mother would actually say to me, like, you're an old soul, that's why you don't really fit in. And she would actually say that to me, and my mother was the same when she was a child. She was I don't remember the story exact, but she was like playing with toys or something, and she believed that this is kind of similar to like the earth, like we're not it's not how we think it is, and it's not you know like you're saying with the adults. So some adults just it's so difficult, isn't it? Because it's like you can be the same age as someone in terms of like the age on your birth certificate, but the age that you are in maybe a mental or spiritual or anything like that kind of sense, it totally does vary. Like it varies so much. There's young people who are more grown up than some. It's just so strange. It's so strange how it manifests like that in the world. But I guess we're supposed to have different viewpoints and different levels of growth at different ages, and that's part of how we learn and how we grow together, I guess.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, gosh, so much has come out of this conversation. It really has. It's very meaty. So I've got one more question. So, what matters most? So, what is the meaning of life from your perspective? What matters most?
Um, I mean, I think that this tree next to me has more of an idea of the meaning of life than
Yeah.
I do. Um, I just feel like it's a really difficult question because is there necessarily a meaning, or is this just, is this an experience to be had? Is this, I mean, love is the highest energy of all, but the flow of the universe and the will of the universe will always be above that. And I think that's really telling and really interesting because, and I mean, there's proof of that everywhere, but I just think that, you know, the meaning of life is, I honestly, I know that you were going to ask that question because you said, but I thought to myself, you're probably going to it's probably just going to come out. You're just going to say something that makes sense in some way. But to be honest, I think it's a really, really, really heavy question. And I think that when I say heavy question, I mean like, um, you know, do we look at this from an intellectual standpoint, a spiritual standpoint? You can look at it from so many different viewpoints to try to get an answer. And you could say that the meaning of life is different for everybody. You could say that we all have a specific meaning or goal to get to. It's just so. I mean, if we knew the answer to every question, there'd be nothing to contemplate and nothing to ponder. And I really don't want to sit here and say that I know the meaning of life. I think that we all know it on a deeper spiritual level where it can't be put into words. I think that, any meaning of life that can be spoken is not the true meaning of life, because it goes much deeper than that, and it expands beyond just this physical spectrum, like this light sound spectrum, all of that. It expands far beyond that. And I think that for me, in my human body, as my human self, with my human voice, to I say human, I really don't believe that, but for me to say that here, I think it would be too egotistical and fake, in my opinion. I'm not going to claim to know that.
Yeah, I totally get you, and it's good to have it as something that is yet to come and to unfold, and hopefully we'll be here for a long time, and we can keep changing our mind about that. But I think that it has to be along the lines of living and choosing and finding out who we are, ultimately. But I think it's a very fluid question, and it's also something that a lot of people are wrestling with at the moment, with everything seeming kind of quite dark out there, and a little bit doom and gloom in the world, and lots of change. But yeah, I think it's a good question to keep asking ourselves, for our own development, really. Am I happy? Is this meaningful to me? What would be meaningful to me? And then just keep going in that direction. That's kind of what I would say to somebody who was just starting to awaken. Just keep asking the question. You don't have to come up with an answer. Just keep going in the direction of what seems right that particular moment, in presence. I think presence has to be part of it as well. But yeah, amazing. It's been
Yeah.
so lovely to talk to you. So interesting hearing your perspective and catching up with you, obviously. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
So I would just like to say, that I would just like to explain a little bit about me really quickly. So you can find me at secretfrequencies.com, or my YouTube channel is Secret Frequencies Sessions, and I offer Reiki cleanses, and that can be personal cleanses or home cleanses or anything like that. I do sound healing, and I do manifestation, like love and money, and I also do a plethora of different types of readings. So traditional readings that you will have had before, like tarot and crystal ball, and very unique types of readings that you probably haven't had, like bone reading and flower reading and candle wax reading. And all of my things are really reasonably priced, so check me out if you feel drawn to. And yeah, it's been amazing to connect with you. And if anybody is watching this who is my subscriber or from my community, and you have not subscribed to Jenny yet, please do so.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. And it sounds amazing what you do. And I'm looking forward to following you and seeing how the rest of your journey turns out. And obviously, for selfish reasons, because Venus is a friend of mine from home, it'd be nice when you come back from your travels, obviously, to see you in person. But
Yes, I know. I can't wait.
yeah, thank you so much. It's been lovely to connect with you. And yeah, I'll post this video in a couple of days. I'll do a little bit of editing because the signal went there a bit, and we wanted to do it live. I wanted to have a go.
Apologies.
I wanted to have a go at doing it live, but I had a technological failure. But yeah,
It's
brilliant. Thank
happening.
you so much.
Move life and blessings.
Yes, and to you. And enjoy that beautiful beach and the sunshine. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was an interesting conversation through time and space. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. If you found this information useful, then please like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with someone that you think it might help, and leave a comment below to share any knowledge, wisdom, experience that you may have that can help someone out there, maybe more than you might think. And connecting with each other at this time is definitely the antidote to the separation agenda. If any of you would like guidance or facilitation on your awakening path, to translate the spiritual reason for your symptoms, to change limiting patterns, emotions, or beliefs, or to learn to self-heal, then you can contact me through my website link, which is underneath. I believe that we can learn to self-heal anything ourselves. I self-healed chronic pain that my doctor told me that I would have forever. I also self-healed anxiety disorder, symptoms of complex PTSD. I also lost weight without even trying, and I reversed signs of aging. People all around the world are healing themselves all the time and reversing their diagnoses. So if you're interested in discovering the truth about healing, then I'm here for you. Lots of love.